Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty end at their highest levels in 5 months as bulls rally for the fourth day running. The Nifty reclaims 18,000 for the first time since early April. Financials lead the charge with the Nifty Bank Index closing at a 10-month high. The rupee strengthens to a 1-month high, bolstered by strong foreign fund inflows into the stock market. Support comes in from the dollar's decline against major rivals ahead of the US consumer inflation data.
Is it like Hanuman? You don't believe in your own capacity, in your own strength, and has there got to be somebody, standing next and say, hey, you are Hanuman, do it.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman urges India Inc. to invest more, says the government has cut the corporate tax rate and provided incentives to boost production. Ask the industry, what's stopping you when foreign investors are putting money into India? The government is likely to announce a calibrated correction to the windfall gains tax imposed on oil and gas companies. Sources say an announcement is likely in the next few days as part of the fortnightly review.
At what price you choose to do your IPO is your business. We have no business to suggest otherwise.
Sebi Chief Madhvi Puri Butt says the regulator has no business to suggest pricing of IPOs for new age tech companies, but calls for more disclosures on valuations. Tells India Inc. the market regulator will not scrutinize business decisions, but will crack the whip on violations. 8 people are dead, dozens suffer burn injuries after a fire breaks out at a hotel in Secunderabad. An electric vehicle showroom was housed in the same building. Police are yet to ascertain the cause of the fire. The government classifies 384 drugs as essential, which must be sold at prices set by the Pharma Pricing Authority. These include popular drugs used to treat diabetes, tuberculosis, HIV, among others. 26 drugs deleted from the 2015 list of essential medicines. The COVID vaccine do not make it to the list. Depositories like NSDL, CSDL and CAMS could see 4,000 to 5,000 crore rupees in additional revenue. CNBC-TV18's analysis of the impact of the insurance regulator's latest mandate to dematerialize insurance policies shows the move could cause some short-term pain for insurance companies. Well, let's start with the action on Dalal Street, where the rally continued for the 4th day in a row. The Sensex and the Nifty hitting their highest level in 5 months. The Nifty is back above the 18,000 mark for the first time since early April. Financials led the rally and the Nifty Bank Index is at a 10-month high. Prashant is here to wrap up the market action for us. Prashant.
Well, 18,000 is finally in the bag for the market, and the index doing very, very well. It's almost becoming routine, normal for the index to gain 100 points day on day, and today was no different once again. What did well? There was metals which stood out. There was also the FMCG and the private bank space which participated quite well. The IT services space, which sort of saw signs of life over the last 2 days, was not amongst the top gainers. Market breadth, though, narrowed quite a bit. I mean, almost came down to 1:1 by close. So maybe at the margin, you'd want to keep an eye on that. Some have, of course, also been pointing about the quality of the rally getting a little poorer, with lots of smaller names, out of favor names starting to participate as well. As far as Nifty stocks are concerned, a few names. Tata Consumer did very well. There was Titan, which was a top gainer. In the financial services space, IndusInd Bank, Bajaj Finance did well. Bharti, Britannia and L&T were some of the other large cap names which participated. Broader market is a long list of both gainers and losers. I'll just highlight a few. There was Tata Investment Corporation, Policy Bazaar, which was up over 10%. All Cargo, a logistics company, which is almost back at new highs. There were these rice companies like KRBL, Daawat, and many others which participated. What next? Well, the market, with all that it has done recently, leaves us at a position where it's just 3% away from an all-time high. 18,600 was the high, all-time high made in October 2021, and we're about 3% away. So will that come first before anything else? I think that's the big question. India by far has been the best performing market globally. In the very near term, later in the US, out of the US today, we get the August consumer price inflation numbers. Unless and until, of course, that is a big surprise, the market should move on with the sentiment being very, very positive here. Back to you.
Prashant, many thanks for joining us. Well, from the stock markets to the money market, where the rupee gained nearly 40 paise against the dollar, hitting its highest level in over a month. The rupee remains just above the 79 mark against the greenback, and the 10-year government bond rallied in trade. Yields eased despite a higher than expected inflation reading of 7% in August. Lata joins us now to wrap up the money market action. Lata.
Yes, the rupee was stronger by 0.5%, almost only 79 rupees to the dollar. At 0.5% higher, it is the best performing currency today in the Asian market. Other currencies are mostly flat, despite the dollar index falling a bit. Now, what is the reason for the rupee's outperformance? It's actually one-off. Dealers say that a large amount of dollars had flowed in some time back into the Indian market, and that was bought by banks. They had hedged that transaction, and now they had to square it off because it was maturing, and so they sold dollars both in the NDF market and in the spot market, and hence this flow of dollars and the fall in the price of the dollars. There are some guesses that maybe it was Holcim's payment that came in, in May, and that was hedged with the banks, and that is the contract that they are now squaring. But all this is hearsay. All we know is this is a one-off transaction. It is a forward transaction, and that was a large amount of money. There are other positive rupee factors like equity flows from FPIs have turned positive. There is an expectation that bond index inclusion will mean more dollar flows. These positives are there, and of course the dollar index is falling, but today's rally is clearly a one-off. We shouldn't expect such huge jumps in the Indian rupee as a matter of routine. The bond markets also did see some bit of positivity, despite the fact that the inflation number for August was higher than expected. This is because the bond market is less worried about inflation. They're only worried about the bond index inclusion. In any case, a lot of economists like from SBI and Citi are expecting the Reserve Bank to hike only by 25 or 35 basis points because of the dovish noises or dovish statements we got from some MPC members like Ashima Goyal.
All right, Lata, many thanks. Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman urging India Inc. to invest without hesitation. In fact, making this pitch yet again. Speaking at an event in Delhi, the Finance Minister asked India Inc. when foreign companies want to be in India, why are Indian companies reluctant to invest? She asked if industry is behaving like Hanuman, who was not aware of his own strengths. The Finance Minister also called on industry leaders to ensure timely payment to MSMEs, saying the responsibility to support small companies lies with the private sector and not the government alone.
Since 2019, when I've taken charge of the finance ministry, I've been hearing, though the industry doesn't think it's conducive. All right, bring the rate down. All right, tax rate was brought down. And I keep defending industry, private sector, where even provocatively people have asked, what would you want to tell the private sector? We will do everything to get industry coming and investing here. Give PLI. We've given PLI. I want to hear from the Indian Inc. What's stopping you? When countries and industries abroad think this is the place to be in now, at this time, FDIs are coming, FPIs are coming, it's all, the stock market is so confident, the Indian retail investor believes in them. Is it like Hanuman? You don't believe in your own capacity, in your own strength, and has there got to be somebody, standing next and say, hey, you're Hanuman, do it. Support to the MSMEs is not just what government can give. It is certainly largely dependent on that. Now, I can push my PSCs, I can request states, I can make sure departments pay up, I can only appeal to the industry. For all the tears that we shed for the MSMEs, my tears, your tears, can we limit the time by which the MSME will get its due?
Well, that's the Finance Minister's message to India Inc. at the Hero Mine Summit. Ananta Nageshwaran, India's Chief Economic Advisor, believes that retail inflation inching up to 7% in August is concerning but manageable. In a conversation with my colleague Parikshit Luthra, the CA called for more administrative measures to control food inflation, adding that measures needed to be taken to ensure availability of adequate food stock.
I'm not very concerned because this is to be expected given the base effects that indices normally face, and the market is also probably overreacting, the food markets, to the possible lower sowing on the rice crops, and therefore building in some expected shortage, and therefore the prices are reacting in advance.
How do you think India is poised in terms of managing inflation? Several steps have been taken: restrictions on food exports, restrictions on wheat, restrictions on sugar, rice and broken rice as well. But somehow food inflation remains a concern. What more steps would be needed to manage inflation?
I think food inflation or fuel inflation do not get necessarily addressed by the central bank monetary policy except for second round effects. So therefore more administrative measures and ensuring adequate stocks and making sure that the availability is ensured for the needy segments of the population, and that would make sure that any increase in local domestic prices in response to international prices, it turns out to be as limited as possible. While we are concerned about 7% inflation, and rightly so, we must remember that compared to what other countries are going through, our inflation rate is highly manageable.
Well, that's the chief economic advisor. Now, the government is likely to announce a calibrated correction to the windfall gains tax imposed on oil and gas companies. Sources tell us that international crude prices have shown a marginal correction last fortnight, and that's why when the government's announcement on the fortnightly review, which is expected in the next few days, is announced, we could see a change. Timsy joins us now with more. Timsy.
Well, as we know, the fortnightly review for the windfall gain tax is now due. The last review was announced on 1st of September, and now it can be announced anytime soon. And what we are gathering from sources is that given the trend that we have seen in the international crude oil prices, which were below $100 per barrel in the last fortnight, based on that, Petroleum Ministry has recommended a correction, and that's something that is expected once Revenue Department takes a call on the levies. What we are given to understand is also that this could be announced soon, and there could be a calibrated correction, especially in the levy of crude. So let's see what happens finally once the government announces. But yes, this is the routine review that it will take on the windfall gains tax levy. And let's see if there's a review or a relief for that matter when it comes to the levies. Back to you.
Timsy, many thanks. Tragic news from the state of Telangana. At least 8 people were killed and several injured after a fire broke out in a hotel in Secunderabad. The building also housed an electric vehicle showroom on the ground floor, but it is still not clear whether the fire started at the showroom. All those killed in the fire died of suffocation caused by the smoke, and FIR has been registered against the owners of the showroom as well as the lodge. The Ministry of Road Transport has sought a report from the Hyderabad local authorities on the possible causes of fire. State government has announced compensation of 3 lakh rupees to the kin of those dead. Prime Minister Modi has also announced an ex gratia of 2 lakh rupees each for the families of the deceased. Sebi Chief Madhavi Puri Butch has made it clear that the market regulator will not interfere with IPO pricing of new age companies. However, the Sebi chief added that companies need to make more disclosure. She was sharing her views on instances of tech companies seeking high valuations but then collapsing below the issue price. The Sebi chief says that a company is free to ask for a higher price but needs to disclose what happened in the intervening period which justifies the massive change in valuation. The Sebi chief went on to say that business decisions will not be scrutinized, but the regulator will crack the whip on violations.
A lot has been said about the pricing of the IPOs of the new tech companies. What is Sebi's view on that? Our view is simple, starting from the green. At what price you choose to do your IPO is your business. We have no business to suggest otherwise. The days of CCI are long gone.
Well, that is the Sebi chief saying we will not intervene in the IPO market by way of deciding pricing, but expect adequate disclosures from companies. India's Vedanta Group and Taiwanese electronic manufacturer Foxconn have signed an agreement with the Gujarat government to set up a semiconductor manufacturing unit in the state. Both companies pledging to invest 1.54 lakh crore rupees to set up the facility, which is expected to create 1 lakh job opportunities in the state. Software giant HCL Tech has fired 350 employees globally who were working on Microsoft's news-related products. These include geographies like Guatemala, Philippines and India. One of the employees laid off told Money Control that Microsoft had an issue with the quality of the work. The last day of the work for employees will be the 30th of September and they will be offered severance pay. HCL Tech is not the only company handing out pink slips. Investment banking giant Goldman Sachs will reportedly lay off more than 100 employees starting this month. Reports suggest the company will lay off around 1 to 5% of its lowest performing employees. This is the company's biggest round of job cuts since the pandemic began. Senior advocate Mukul Rohatgi is set to return as the Attorney General from October. He will succeed KK Venugopal, who will retire later this month. Rohatgi had served as the Attorney General earlier between 2014 to 2017. The 91-year-old KK Venugopal had expressed his unwillingness to continue further as Attorney General. The government has released the national list of essential medicines comprising 384 medicines across 27 categories, and these include several vaccines, antibodies and anti-cancer drugs. The purpose of the list is to ensure that these medicines are available to patients at an affordable rate. Ekta joins us now with more on the list. Ekta.
Well, yes, in an important development for patients as well as consumers, the government has released the national list of essential medicines for the year 2022. They have added 34 drugs and they've deleted 26 drugs from the previous list. So net-net, there are now a total of 384 drugs which are in the national list of essential medicines, which are across 27 categories. Now, the medicines which are added in the 2022 list include the likes of antibiotics, anti-allergy drugs, nicotine replacement therapy, hepatitis B drugs which are used for HIV, as well as a couple of vaccines, and the popular ivermectin, the anti-parasitic drug which was used during COVID-19. What this NLEM basically does is that the prices will be controlled going forward for these drugs which are in this particular list. So the ceiling price will be decided by the NPPA, and companies cannot sell above this ceiling price. They can sell below the ceiling price. Any drug which is outside of the NLEM, say for example ranitidine, and you saw the impact on a company such as JB Chemicals in today's trading session, they can probably hike prices by 10% per year. Based on the fact that they are now not a part of the national list of essential medicines.
Ekta, many thanks. We'll head into a break. Up next, a CNBC-TV18 analysis of the impact of the insurance regulator's latest mandate to dematerialize insurance policies. How will it impact the ecosystem? Stay with us to find out.